welcome to today's experiment, which is hopefully going to be a not Chicken Kiev. It's the 2nd of December and we seem to be galloping closer and closer towards Christmas. Christmas 2020. It's going to be a weird one, that's for sure. Christmas dinner the last couple of years, I've done a nut pétivier, which is a kind of fancy French pie. This year I fancy doing something a little bit different. And because I've got to grips a bit more with meat substitutes and how to make them, I thought I'd try and see what I can come up with. Just in case you haven't come across one before, a Chicken Kiev is a chicken breast that's got garlic butter stuffed inside and then it's breaded and either deep fried or baked. This is the first vegan cookbook I bought 3 years ago when I started on my little journey. In this, he's got a recipe for sriracha meatballs, which I have made before, and they're brilliant. Taste just like turkey meatballs. So I'm going to draw on some of those ingredients and techniques and see if I can come up with that Chicken Kiev recipe. If anything goes wrong, it's my fault, not Gaz's. First things first, I need to make an egg replacer, both to put in the mix to help bind the rest of the ingredients, and then also as a replacement egg wash. I'm using white chia seeds because they're white, because of the colour, and I don't want little flecks of brown linseeds in the mix. I'm adding 5 tablespoons of chia seeds into a coffee grinder. You can also do this with a pestle and mortar. It's just going to take a while for you to do it. I decided to do it in a bigger bowl because why invite disaster? I'm going through the chia seeds just to make sure there's no big lumps. Which, you know, there's a few, so just break them up a bit. I've got 5 tablespoons of ground chia seeds in here. Any leftovers, they can just go in the fridge and chill out in there for, I don't know, a few weeks at least. The ratio here is 1 tablespoon of ground chia seeds to 3 tablespoons of water. I need 15 tablespoons of water, which my calculator has told me is 225 mils of water. Give it a good mix. You can see it happens quite quickly. I'm using tofu for this recipe and it is actually going to be gluten-free, so it might be a nice one for the celiacs amongst us. When you take tofu out of the packet, you'll see it's really wet, so just give it a real good squeeze. And I'd recommend doing it over the sink, but I'm trying to illustrate a point. And then break it into the bowl. I'm using 2 blocks of tofu. And these are about 300 grams. So in here I want to get some flavour, some kind of chicken flavours going on. So I'm using chicken flavoured stock. So 2 tablespoons of chicken flavour stock. A touch of salt and pepper. I'm not using masses of salt because the stock is quite salty already. I'm using 8 tablespoons of buckwheat flour. This really helps give that kind of meaty texture to it. And buckwheat flour is, as far as I could discover when I had a bit of researching time, it's gluten-free. Do your own research though, obviously, if it's a matter of a health condition. We'll give this a mashing together just to start getting it a bit combined and then start adding the liquid ingredients in. Put the mixture to the side for a couple of minutes just to rest. I say rest. I forgot to do the butter, didn't I? I want to do the butter now so that it sets a little bit in the fridge. Makes it easier for when I tuck it inside. Do that ahead of time. The herbs I'm using are savoury, marjoram and a bit of za'atar. For me, they've got some real roast chicken kind of vibes to them. So it's not going to make it taste like chicken, but it's going to make it taste like roast chicken. It's going to trigger some memories for me. I'm using a teaspoon of savoury. It's quite a woody herb, so I'm going to grind it down a bit more, just so it's in finer pieces. Savoury is a herb that's quite, in my mind, quite similar to rosemary and thyme. Blitz that for a second or two. And I'm adding a teaspoon of marjoram. We'll blitz it together again, just to get it a little bit finer. Add the herbs into the butter. I'll add half a teaspoon of za'atar. Za'atar is a blend of herbs and sesame seeds, predominantly thyme, and then sometimes it has marjoram. Different regions and different producers have their own blends that they use. I'm also adding in a bit of flat leaf parsley, just to give it an extra pop of freshness. I do stems and all. You can pick it if you want, take the stems out, your preference. There's 2 tablespoons-ish of chopped parsley. and then use the fork and just mash it together. I've scooped the butter out onto a piece of cling film and I'm just sort of patting it and rolling it into a rough shape. And then I'll divide that into 4. Hopefully I'll get 4 chicken Kievs. Because I forgot to do it, I'm going to put this in the freezer to chill down quite fast, but you can do it in the fridge as well. Back to the mixture. So looking at the chia seed egg replacer, you can see I want 2 tablespoons of the chia eggs. Thank you. And 4 tablespoons of olive oil. You can use any sort of oil. I just decided to be a bit fancy and use extra virgin olive. And then start working those together. Already the smell is making me think of roast chicken. Oh. So I'm just grabbing a lump to see what the texture's like, and it's perfect. It's sticking nice, it's not too gloopy, not too dry. I'm going to build these on a piece of cling film. I just find it a bit easier to work with. I have 800 grams of mixture and I want 4 Kievs, and then each is going to be a bit of mixture, then the butter, and then another bit on top. So weighed out 100 grams. Loosely form it in a kind of chicken breast sort of shape. Cover it over. Keep it quite tight, quite packed. So just force it around down there. You want the pieces to be roughly equal, but they don't have to be exact. They don't have to be spot on because we're gonna squidge it together anyway. I've got all 8 of my little patties, I suppose I'd call them, ready to go, all nicely flattened. And now it's butter time. And I'll place 1 in the middle. Chilling the butter isn't essential, but it does help it keep shape and make things a little bit easier. And then lay another one on top. And then really it's just a case of sealing it together. Cling film does make it a bit easier. I'm seeing cracks develop, but that's okay, she says. You do want to have quite a nice firm seal there so that the butter doesn't ooze out. I found that pinching it quite firmly through the cling film, pinching the 2 layers together seems to work quite well. And then you can neaten that up a little bit. Wrapping it really snugly in there to give it maximum opportunity to bond. Give it a little twist at the end. I'll let those rest in the fridge for about half an hour or so because I want them to be really nice and firm when I start putting the egg wash and breadcrumbs on. Otherwise it's just going to fall apart. So I'll see you in a bit. The Kievs have been in the fridge for about half an hour, so they have got a nice sort of firm denseness to them. So now comes the crumbing. I'm using Panko, which is a Japanese style breadcrumb. These are quite often made from rice bread, which therefore makes them gluten-free. I've just checked the ones I've got and they've got wheat. So just be careful if you're trying to go gluten-free, that the crumbs you buy, the breadcrumbs, the Panko, whatever, doesn't have wheat in it. Just double check. Do your due diligence. You'll need 2 shallow dishes setting up to the side, one with your breadcrumbs and then one that I'm going to put the chia seeds in. At the moment the consistency is very gelatinous, so I'm going to loosen it up with some milk, about a tablespoon at a time, see how we get on. So just whisk it through, so dollop some in here, put a little splash more. I'm putting a bit of salt in there as well. Ideally you want 1 wet hand, 1 dry hand. Put it in and just make sure every part of it's covered. Just checking to see if there's any gaps, if it's split anywhere. Try and get some of the excess off and then lay it on and then cover it with the Panko. Yeah, I should have used a bigger dish really. There we go. I started off with 40 grams of Panko, so we'll see how we get on. I have the oven preheating to 175 degrees. I'm spraying a bit of oil on these just to help with that golden colour. Bang those in. These have had half an hour. Let's have a little look, shall we? What I can see immediately is they've all stayed sealed. There's no butter leaked out. Yes! Nailed it! So let's choose a nice golden one. So you can see the texture of it. It does need more stock, more flavour, so perhaps even 4 tablespoons. And perhaps a touch more of the buckwheat flour, just to make it a little bit firmer, because it's very tender. You can see inside, all the butter's there just chilling out. I'd hoped that when I cut into it, that all the butter would just flood out everywhere, but I think it's been absorbed by the tofu. But that's okay, because it still tastes banging. It needs a couple of little tweaks here and there to be a perfect dish, but I'm very happy with that, to say it's my first attempt. Given that next month is Veganuary, this could be a really nice little, way to ease yourself into some meat substitutes. If you've been thinking about doing Veganuary in 2021, then hit subscribe and also check out a couple of these other videos. I'll hold your hand through it.